Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I wanted to talk about Murray Rothbard's discussion on children and rights. So Rothbard talked about children and parental duties or obligations to not harm children in the ethics of liberty. And there's something that Rothbard said that I think was poor phrasing and poor framing. Rothbard gets right, I believe, that children have the right of self-ownership. That is, children are independent human beings who deserve respect as autonomous individuals. Of course, the nature of children being unable to take care of themselves for quite a period of their life means that those who are in control of the property around them with housing and food are pretty much going to decide what happens with children in terms of what they have access to or what they don't. But despite these things and the nuances of, parental rearing and choices, I just wanted to focus on one element that cuts to a core that a lot of people really kind of get caught up on with Rothbard's words. And in particular, Rothbard says, now if a parent may own his child within the framework of non-aggression, runaway freedom, then he may also transfer that ownership to someone else. He may give the child out for adoption, or he may sell the rights to the child in a voluntary contract. So the problem with this is that children are not property owned by another. They are their own independent human beings. Their mind, that is their brain, is exerting impulses of electricity on themselves. It's creating control and ownership. So children are not really owned by a parent. When a parent is giving up their stewardship over a child, if they were to, say, sell this in some way, sell this ability, it wouldn't be a sale of the child. It's not selling a child. Rather, it's selling a duty to not speak that you are the child's parent, or that you should have control over the child. In other words, it's a negative duty, a duty to not speak and not say things. That's what it boils down to. There isn't a selling of children within an ethical, voluntarist, principled ideology. There isn't this idea of, there's going to be a free market of selling kids and things like that. Not in the slightest. What we're talking about here is a parent making a contract that they will not claim to be a child steward. They will not claim to be the person who is taking care of a child. That's what it boils down to, really and truly. It is not selling ownership of a child, as a child could choose to leave or run away, even with an adopted family or someone who takes on the child for some other reason, because of a parent's death or absence or otherwise. So that needs to be eliminated from the discourse on Rothbard's concepts on parents and rights and children and so forth, because his framing makes it seem as if children are owned when they're not owned. It's not a property right in a child. A parent does not own a child. Rather, a parent is acting as a steward and acting as someone who cares for a child and provides things for them, hopefully out of a loving relationship. But in turning children into property, Rothbard makes a fatal mistake, and so that should be avoided because that is not in line with the concept of self-ownership. Self-ownership means that the highest authority over the body of an individual is that individual, not another person, and other people do not own other human beings. And I think there is a good reason why this makes sense, and that is because of the brain's impressions on the body through electrical impulse, through what is, signals out on the body, creating control. And that is easily expanded into forms of alienation, as when you try to get rid of parts, you can actually get rid of control. So for example, donating blood, the blood is taken out of the body away from control. If you donate an organ, it's removed from the electrical control, the impulses of control in the brain. You cannot alienate the body in whole until death, because much like someone who is trying to sell a car, if you sit in the driver's seat and refuse to get out, you haven't given up control. And so it's a matter of physiological impossibility to have slavery, to sell the whole of the body as property, because the mind continues to exert control. And in line with this, children are their own independent beings, and parents should be doing their best to maximize consent and minimize the initiation of violence. Of course, things will never be absolutely perfect because humans make mistakes or they, go too far across boundaries, but the goal of working toward this end, toward not treating children like property, but as independent human beings worthy of care and respect, just like you would other people, not use violence against their body. When you keep that in mind, you come up with a more consistent philosophy as to the relationship between parent and child. So hopefully it helps clarify some thinking on Rothbard, and I think that in line with some of the other things he said, this actually brings much greater clarity to the nature of the parent and child relationship. All right, take care everybody. Talk to you later.